Episode 1 of Wednesday starts with students arriving for classes at Nancy Reagan High School. Among those students is Wednesday, who finds her little brother Pugsley is a victim of bullying. The bullies have tied him up in her locker and left an apple in his mouth. As she unties him from the ropes, she gets a vision of what the bullies did, and she leaves to deal with them. Wednesday finds them in the school swimming pool, and releases 2 bags of red-bellied piranhas into the pool. She then watches with sheer fascination and delight as the piranhas attack the boys in the water. The next scene cuts to Wednesday being driven to Nevermore by her parents, and she seems quite unhappy about this. Her parents try to assure her that she will love Nevermore, which they think is the perfect school for her. Wednesday thinks they are taking her there to live out some kind of legacy they left in the school. Her parents went to the same school, and it is where they first met and fell in love. Her mom, Morticia, insists that they are taking her to the new school because it is a place where her peers can understand her, a magical place like no other. There is also the fact that Wednesday was almost charged with attempted murder after what she did to the bullies in her former school. They soon arrive at Nevermore, and the principal, Larissa, welcomes them. As it turns out, she is Morticia's old roommate. She is impressed enough with Wednesday's perfect grades and the family's long history with the school to make an expectation and accept her in the middle of the term. Morticia is concerned about Wednesday's mental health and informs the principal that Wednesday is required by the court to attend therapy. Larissa says they have a certified therapist, and she can meet Wednesday twice a week. The principal assigns Wednesday to her mother's old dorm, Ophelia Hall, and takes them to meet Wednesday's new roommate. Enid Sinclair is a bubbly girl and is excited to meet her new roommate and take her on a tour of the school. Wednesday is not interested in learning much about the place, as she has no plans of staying long in the school. Enid is quick to bring up the rumors about Wednesday's brush with the law in her former school. Of course, Wednesday calmly confirms the rumors to be true. Enid still shows Wednesday around and tells her about the school's social cliques, which are divided into 4, namely fangs, furs, stones, and scales. The family bids Wednesday goodbye, and Morticia warns her about planning to escape the school. Wednesday believes her mom underestimates her and vows to leave the educational penitentiary that they have enrolled her in. Her mother tells her that she is brilliant, but she sometimes gets in her way. She leaves her a little parting gift, a pendant made of obsidian and a crystal ball to contact her on. Her dad leaves her another gift, a piece of a hand to secretly watch over her. In the woods near Nevermore, a sheriff and another officer discover human remains. According to the female officer, there have been 2 other similar attacks a week before. The sheriff wants to issue a warning to keep hikers off the woods and blame the bears. He knows that it was not a bear that attacked the hikers and thinks the murders are connected to Nevermore. Unfortunately, has no evidence yet, so he will be sticking to the bear attack story for now. Wednesday has a hard time settling in at the school. She makes a new enemy with the school's queen bee the next morning. She gets hurt and makes a new friend, Rowan. She nearly dies when a gargoyle almost falls on her, but luckily Xavier saves her. He is returning a favor when Wednesday saved his life when they were 10. Later that day, Wednesday spots the gift her dad left for her. She decides to make thing into her loyal helper, and her first order of business is escaping the school. Principal Larissa drives her to her therapist appointment, as she wants to keep an eye on her. Wednesday asks to go to the toilet in the middle of the appointment. She escapes through the toilet window and heads to the nearest cafe across the street to get information on how to leave the town. On the street, she runs into a man and has a vision of his death. The man is rude to her, so she decides he isn't worth saving. In the cafe, she meets Tyler and makes a deal with him. She will fix his coffee machine, and he calls a taxi for her. Tyler offers to drive her himself, but she has to wait for an hour. She tries to bribe him with money, but he says he can't be bought. She decides to wait for him. As she waits, 3 boys visit the cafe and start harassing her. She fights back and floors them with her fighting skills. Soon after the fight, the sheriff drops in at the cafe and is shocked to see that she fought off 3 boys. He asks Tyler, his son, if he helped her, but he says no. The principal soon arrives and hurriedly picks Wednesday up. The sheriff is not thrilled to hear that she is the daughter of Gomez Addams and tells her that her dad is a murderer. The principal advises Wednesday to stop making enemies and start making friends. As they drive back to school, at school, Enid and Wednesday get a bit close, and she asks Enid for a favor to use her computer. She sends Thing to Tyler with a message to call her. She recruits Tyler to help her escape during the Harvest Festival. It is not easy to lose Principal Larissa, who is keeping a close eye on her. Tyler shows up at the festival as planned and gives her the police report on her father. As she and Tyler try to leave, they are approached by the 3 boys she beat in the cafe. They are looking to settle scores and a rematch. Tyler thinks it is best to lose them in the crowd. They start running from them, but she runs into Rowan and has another vision of him being in danger. She tries to save him, but he is trying to kill her because of a picture and a prophecy his mom had 25 years ago. A creature appears from nowhere and saves her by killing Rowan. At the end of the day, her parents call and she begrudgingly admits she loves being in the school. Episode 2 of Wednesday Season 1 starts with police officers led by the sheriff looking for Rowan's body in the woods. Unfortunately, they are not able to find it. The sheriff does not believe Wednesday's statement about a monster attacking Rowan and thinks that it was a student at Nevermore. The principal is convinced that Rowan ran away and is not happy about the sheriff's accusations. After taking Wednesday's statement, the principal wishes the sheriff would leave, but Wednesday asks to speak to him privately. The principal eventually agrees to let them talk privately, on the condition that everything Wednesday says is off the record. Wednesday tells the sheriff that she thinks someone is trying to cover Rowan's death. An officer disrupts their conversation and opens the door, allowing Rowan to step into the room. Behold, he is alive. This occurs much to the shock of everyone, especially Wednesday. During her therapy session, the therapist wants to understand why Wednesday lied about witnessing a murder. Wednesday is sure she saw Rowan being killed by a creature, but no one believes her. The therapist tries to get through to Wednesday, but she is not willing to open up or lose the battle. After her session, she meets Tyler, who is shocked to learn she is legally required to go to therapy. Tyler says he believes what she says she saw in the wood before he receives a message and leaves. Once she is back in school, Wednesday tells Enid that she decided to stay to catch Rowan in his own game. She asks Enid about what Rowan is saying about the situation, but she knows nothing, and suggests she asks Rowan's roommate Xavier. Enid is currently too preoccupied with the Po Cup competition, and being the school's gossip girl is taking the backbench for a while. She tries to talk to Rowan, but the principal informs her that he has been expelled for a reason she can't share. The principal is onto her psychic abilities as well, and tells her about her mother's vision. She asks if Wednesday has spoken to her mom about her visions. She also asks Wednesday to pick an extracurricular activity as required by the school by the end of the day. After she meets with the principal, Wednesday asks Thing to keep an eye on Rowan before he leaves the next day. She then meets with Bianca, the person who she saw first in the woods after the attack. She asks her what happened after she passed out in the woods, but she is not helpful. She later meets Xavier at the archery club and asks him about his roommate Rowan. Xavier tells her that Rowan has been on edge for the last few weeks. He also advises her to steer clear of Tyler. Later, she tries to talk to Rowan before he leaves and asks him about the drawing he had of her during the attack. He says he doesn't remember and is driven to the station by a teacher, but Thing is secretly following him. At the station, Rowan heads to the restroom, and his appearance changes from a student to an old man. Thing, unfortunately, loses track of him and misses this transformation. The old man later changes to Principal Larissa. Wednesday is disappointed in Thing for losing Rowan in the station. During the class on carnivorous plants, Wednesday and Bianca get into a knowledge showdown and a few buttons are pushed. On the other hand, Tyler and his dad are drifting further apart. He thinks that Tyler is badmouthing him to his therapist and wants to know what they are discussing in their sessions. Tyler tells him that they talk about his mom and he leaves after letting him know he won't be home for dinner. Later, Wednesday asks Enid to be her lookout so she can go back to the woods. Enid suggests that she apologizes to Thing for snapping it in, and she might consider helping her. Wednesday apologizes to Thing and confides in Thing that she is scared she might be responsible for Doom in the future. Enid keeps her promise and helps Wednesday by pretending to be her during her beekeeping club activity. In the woods, Wednesday is helped by Tyler, who is stalking his dad. She tells Tyler she is back in the woods to find evidence that Rowan is dead, and she is not losing her mind. She also wants to find out why the creature saved her from Rowan. She finds Rowan's glasses in the woods, and as she picks them up she has a vision. In her vision, she sees what happened the day the gargoyle nearly killed her. It turns out Rowan is behind that attack, and she also sees the book Rowan got the drawing from. Miss Thornhill tells her that the book belonged to an old student society called the Nightshades. The student society has been long disbanded. Miss Thornhill tells Wednesday that she was impressed by Wednesday during the carnivorous class. She also confides on Wednesday that she is also struggling to fit in school as a normal teacher. Wednesday also tells her that she enjoys being disliked by people. Miss Thornhill tells her to never lose her ability to not let others define her. She also offers to be there for her if she ever needs someone to talk to. Later, Wednesday sneaks into Xavier and Rowan's room to look for the book. She finds a mask, and before she can leave, Xavier returns to the room. She hides under the bed, and he gets a visit from Bianca. She overhears the conversation between them, and it seems that Xavier was worried that Rowan was planning to hurt Wednesday. She also overhears Bianca's plans to crush Enid in the upcoming competition. Bianca sabotaged Enid, leaving her without a Coppolet in the competition. Wednesday decides to help Enid so that she can take Bianca down. The next day, Wednesday and Enid team up for the competition. As there are no rules, it is all fair game, and Bianca is using this to her advantage. During the contest though, Wednesday has another vision. This time she sees a version of herself, and it tells her she is the key. Wednesday continues on, and they use Bianca's underhand methods against her to win. After, Wednesday figures out a clue into the mystery she is seeking to understand. She finds the book Rowan got the picture from in a secret library within the school. Sadly, she is captured before she leaves the room. Episode 3 of Wednesday starts exactly where we left off in the previous chapter, with Wednesday captured in the secret Nightshade room. The bag over her head is removed, and her hands are tied behind her. Cloaked people surround her, but she spots Bianca and asks her to take off her mask. Everyone takes their masks off, and Xavier asks how she got wind of their secret room. She answers that Rowan showed her. It seems like the Nightshades have been secretly thriving with the permission of the principal. They are now in a dilemma about what to do with Wednesday, who stumbled upon their secret society. Xavier wants her to take the pledge and join them, while Bianca thinks that is a horrible idea. On the other hand, Wednesday cares less about joining their secret society. She frees herself and walks out after calling them amateurs who give kidnapping a bad name. The next morning, the principal announces that students will be expected to do voluntary jobs that day, followed by a community lunch. They will also have a dedication of a memorial statue in the town square, and they are expected to behave accordingly. Wednesday is stationed to work at Uriah's Heap, an antique store. The principal also informs her that she signed her up for a performance. She wants Wednesday to play her cello and accompany the neighboring school band at the ceremony. While in town for their respective volunteer jobs, Wednesday tells Xavier that she still thinks Rowan is dead. Xavier doesn't believe her, but is willing to answer her questions about the picture in the book. He tells her the man in the picture is Jericho Crackstone, the town's founding father. In the meantime, the sheriff is convinced that the recent attacks in the woods are linked to Nevermore. However, the mayor doesn't share his thoughts, and asks him to find the bear and take care of it. He reminds him that Nevermore is the town's biggest source of income, so they can't go around pointing fingers at them. Wednesday asks Enid to switch their volunteer jobs, so she can have access to Pilgrim World and learn more about Crackstone. As expected, the day doesn't go smoothly. The three troublemakers start harassing Eugene, but he is saved by Wednesday. Enid and her crush Ajax have a moderately scary experience in the antique store. This, however, does not stop Enid from shooting her shot and flirting with Ajax, who is as clueless as can be. After saving Eugene, Wednesday asks him to be her lookout as she breaks into Crackstone's old meeting house. Whilst there, she sees a portrait and recognizes the girl from her previous vision. She also recognizes the book the girl is carrying in the portrait. Unfortunately, the original book is not in the meeting house. Wednesday's little snooping rendezvous is cut short by Arlene, a teacher. Arlene reassigns them to a new job, but Wednesday is intent on finding the real meeting house. She visits Tyler and runs into Xavier as well, who is volunteering at the cafe. He cautions her to stay away from Tyler, but Wednesday reminds him that she can make her own decisions on who to associate with. Wednesday asks Tyler if he knows the location of the actual house. Tyler is willing to take her and asks her to wait for him, but she refuses. The house is located in the middle of the woods, so she decides to take things with her. At the house, she tries to touch things hoping to get a vision. At first, it doesn't work, but as she is about to leave, she gets a vision. In the vision, she sees the girl again. Her name is Goody. She is being persecuted by a group of pilgrims led by Crackstone. He accuses her of being a witch and Lucifer's mistress. He incites the crowd to throw her and her community of outcasts into a house and set it ablaze. Goody's mother asks her to escape and save herself, so she can avenge them. She manages to escape from the house, but Crackstone ends up chasing her. Wednesday wakes up from her vision and spots the monster lurking nearby. She chases it into the woods and discovers that the monster can transform into a human. As she processes this new information, Xavier shows up out of the blue, and she tries showing him the monster's footprints, but sadly, they have been washed away by the rain. Wednesday is also concerned about how Xavier just happened to be there at that precise moment. He tells her that he overheard her conversation with Tyler and came to make sure she is safe. As they head back into town, he asks her about her visions and warns her that they might not be reliable. His dad is a renowned psychic and has written books on the matter, so Xavier thinks he is an expert by extension. He also tells Wednesday that he is starting to believe that something bad happened to Rowan, as he has been acting weird in his text messages. He also thinks her vision of Crackstone has nothing to do with the future. Wednesday believes that it is all tied together, and that Rowan was right about the impending doom. She tells Xavier she won't sit back and whitewash the history of what happened to the witches. She informs him that she is also not going to give up on finding the monster. Wednesday arrives in town just in time for the band performance, starting off the unveiling of the statue celebration. She employs the help of Thing to set the statue on fire during the performance. As everyone runs away, she calmly sits amid the chaos and intensely plays her cello. After the ceremony, the principal is furious and believes that Wednesday is the culprit, but has no evidence. Wednesday swears her hands are clean and questions the principal on her decision to hide the truth. The principal tells her that she can't risk having Nevermore ruined on her watch. She wants to start over and make nice with the people of the town. Wednesday tells her that will never work because most townspeople still hate them. Later that night, the monster attacks someone else, and the attack is captured on the victim's camera. Elsewhere, Enid is excited about her first date with Ajax, but he has a mirror accident and is unable to make it. Enid thinks he stood her up and is disappointed and angry. As the episode ends, we see several characters hiding secrets, and the sheriff developing the film from the crime scene. Episode 4 of Wednesday starts with her sneaking into the county coroner's office with the help of Thing. She wants to learn more about the victims of the monster and examine the body of the latest victim. Her sleuthing is interrupted by the return of the coroner and the sheriff. She hides in one of the mortuary cabinets and overhears their conversation. The killer is keeping trophies from his victims. The sheriff asks the coroner to keep this a secret, and he gladly agrees. He is more excited that this is his last case before retiring. The next morning, Wednesday shares her findings with Eden, who faints at the sight of the grotesque crime scene photos. Later in class, Wednesday finds Xavier's neck wounds a little suspicious, but he tells her that he tweaked his neck while fencing. Wednesday doesn't believe him and spies on him. She discovers his secret painting room on the school grounds and breaks in. Once she is in, she finds drawings of the monster. She takes one of the drawings and leaves. Xavier spots her before she leaves and asks what she is doing there. She asks him the same question, and he tells her that it is his private art studio, but refuses to give her a tour. She has no valid excuse for being there, so she decides to ask him to the upcoming rave and dance. Xavier is happy to be asked and thinks she is into him. Eden is also happy that Wednesday has changed her mind and wants to bond over dress shopping. Wednesday, however, has other ideas and doesn't think dress shopping is their thing. While in town, she visits the sheriff and tries to convince him they should work together. The sheriff is hesitant at first, but between the mayor's constant calls for an update and Wednesday's persuasion, he agrees. He asks her to bring him some evidence, and maybe they might work together to zone in on a suspect. Eden, left to her own devices, runs into Lucas Walker, the mayor's son and one of the three troublemakers. He asks Eden to take him to the dance in her school, and lies he wants to make an ex jealous. Eden thinks this is a great idea as she is still under the impression that Ajax ghosted her, and wants to make him jealous too. As Wednesday leaves the station, she meets Tyler, and he tries to get her to ask him to the dance. He is not pleased to hear she is taking Xavier. He thinks that he and Wednesday have a thing, but she tells him that she has a lot going on, and he is not a priority. Later that day, Wednesday asks Eugene to keep her crime photos in the bee house. Enid doesn't want the pictures in their room. Eugene asks her to put a good word for him with Enid in return. He also helps Wednesday find the monster's lair. After spotting a drawing of it on her board, they decide to visit the lair and find a broken claw, and she bags it as evidence. She gets back to school and sneaks into Xavier's secret art studio to collect his DNA. Xavier discovers her, and he is forced to explain how he has the drawings of the monster and the scratches on his neck. He also learns that she only asked him to the dance as a cover when she first sneaked into his studio. Wednesday takes the claw and the DNA sample of Xavier to the sheriff and asks him to run a DNA test. With her date to the dance no longer talking to her, Wednesday asks Eugene to escort her to stake out the monster's lair and identify the monster. However, her plan for a thrilling night of stakeout is ruined when Tyler shows up on her doorstep, dressed to the nines, ready to be her date. Thing did a naughty thing behind her back and sent Tyler a sweet letter pretending to be Wednesday asking him to the dance. He even bought her the dress that caught her eye. Wednesday asks Eugene to cancel their plans and go the next night, but he ignores her warning and decides to go alone. At the dance, Xavier is grumpy to see Tyler and Wednesday together, and he asks Bianca to use her siren powers to help him get over Wednesday. Bianca is rightfully annoyed by this request and leaves. Tyler and Wednesday have a great time, and she learns that Xavier was once bullied by Tyler, but that doesn't faze her. On the other hand, Lucas starts to realize that he has a lot in common with Enid. However, he is at the party to ruin it, and he and his friends spray red paint on the students at the end of the party. Enid is disappointed when she finds out that he only used her, but the situation gives her an opportunity to clear up the misunderstanding with Ajax. They kiss and make up. As everyone runs trying to get away from the paint spray, Wednesday has another vision and sees Eugene being attacked by the monster. She rushes to the woods to save him, but she is too late. By the time she gets to him, the monster is long gone, and he is barely alive. Episode 5 of Wednesday starts with questions around how well Wednesday knows her parents. She is trying to figure out what happened the night her dad was accused of killing someone back when he was a student at Nevermore. In a flashback, we see a young Larissa giving a statement to the police blaming Morticia, while Gomez is being taken away in handcuffs. At present time, it is the official parents' weekend at the school, and most parents have started arriving to spend the weekend with their children. The Addams family is in attendance, and Morticia worries that Wednesday is not looking forward to seeing them. At the assembly, the principal gives an update on Eugene, and tells the parents and the students that he is on the mend and is expected to make a full recovery. Enid asks Wednesday if she has gone to see him, and she tells her that he is in a coma and she feels guilty for what happened to him. Enid is also not excited to see her family. She is dreading her mother's judgmental personality because she is yet to wolf out. She and Wednesday hope to get through the weekend and be done with the forced family togetherness. They are not the only ones who find the weekend a bit taxing. Xavier's dad is a no-show, and Bianca's mom showed up to create more problems. She is threatening Bianca to come back home and help her and swindle people using their powers. The principal calls Wednesday's parents for a meeting and tells them about the issues she has been having with Wednesday. She explains it has been rocky at best, and asks them to attend a family therapy session with Dr. Kinbit over the weekend. Morticia is against the idea, but Gomez is up for it. They drive to town for the session, and they are spotted by the sheriff, who thinks that Gomez is a murderer who got free using underhand methods. Tyler tells him that at least Gomez cares enough to go to therapy with Wednesday, and they get into an argument. The sheriff doesn't want to go for a family therapy session with Tyler, and it is causing friction between them. As he leaves the cafe, the sheriff gets a call that the coroner has committed suicide. At the family therapy session, Dr. Kinbit and the family talk about how they have been coping since Wednesday left for Nevermore. They all agree her absence has been tough on them. Wednesday, however, is not feeling inclined to talk about her emotions. She wants to discuss her father's criminal records. She wants to know who Garrett Gates was, and why Gomez was accused of killing him. Morticia ends the session and refuses to tell Wednesday the truth. Wednesday tells her that she will still get to the bottom of the issue, but she drops by the hospital to visit Eugene first. At the coroner's office, officers discover a suicide note in which the doctor states that he felt guilty for writing a fake coroner's report in an old case. The sheriff is pleased to hear that the fake report involves Garrett Gates' case, and thinks he can finally put Gomez behind bars. With the new evidence, he goes to Nevermore and arrests Gomez. Wednesday visits her dad in the holding cell and asks for an explanation. Her dad tells her that Garrett was obsessed with Morticia when they were young. On that fateful night, he attacked Gomez after finding him kissing Morticia, and one thing led to another, and he accidentally killed him. Wednesday doesn't believe her dad, as she knows all his telltale signs when he is lying. She goes to confront the sheriff and asks him to open his eyes, as the case against her dad is too much to be a coincidence. She thinks this is a distraction to her investigation of the monster. The sheriff, on the other hand, thinks it is delayed justice, and is sad none of the Gates family members is around to see it. Wednesday is curious about what happened to the family, and the sheriff tells her they all died. The mother committed suicide, the father drank himself to an early grave, and the sister drowned overseas. Wednesday confronts her mom and asks her why she sent her to a school that can only allow her to exist in her shadow. She also asks her mom to tell her the truth about what happened to Garrett. Morticia confesses that she accidentally stabbed him while trying to save Gomez. As she narrates the ordeal, Wednesday realizes that maybe Garrett was acting irrationally because he was poisoned. They decide to visit his grave and dig him out. They find traces of poison in his body, but before they can report it, they get arrested. In the holding cell, as Gomez and Morticia get reunited, Wednesday has a vision and sees what happened to Garrett. His father gave him nightshade poison to kill the students at Nevermore, but during his fight with Gomez, the vial broke, and the poison was absorbed into his body. The next morning, armed with this information and the evidence, Wednesday and Morticia demand to meet with the mayor. They threaten to out his participation in the cover-up if he doesn't drop the charges on Gomez. The mayor has no choice but to agree, and Gomez is set free, and the sheriff apologizes to him. After the issue is settled, Morticia asks Wednesday about her visions and assures her that she is always there for her. Wednesday asks her to teach her to control her powers, but Morticia tells her only the dead from their bloodline can train her. Wednesday tells her about Goody, and Morticia asks her to be careful, as Goody was a powerful witch pushed by vengeance. As the family weekend wraps up, Enid finds the strength to tell her mother that she won't be going to the conversion camps her mom suggested. She stands up for herself and says she will transition in her own time, and hopes her mom can accept her even when she doesn't. Her dad is proud of her and tells her to do as she wishes, but her mom is disappointed. Morticia asks Wednesday to confide in her more, as she doesn't want them to be strangers. She leaves Wednesday with her old yearbook, and she discovers that the principal is a shapeshifter. She confronts her and confirms her theory that Rowan is dead, and that Larissa pretended to be him after his death. Wednesday threatens to go to the sheriff, but the principal stops her and tells her that Rowan's dad will back her up. She also tells her going to the sheriff will be the end of Nevermore. As they argue, they hear a ruckus outside, Someone has left a burning message on the school's lawn. The message reads, "Fire will rain." Episode 6 of Wednesday starts with Wednesday doing a ritual to summon Goody's spirit, so she can help her master her powers. Her call to the dead is interrupted by Enid and someone throwing an anonymous letter under her door, asking her to meet at Crackstone's crypt at midnight. Enid insists on going along with Wednesday, and it turns out to be a birthday surprise party for Wednesday. As they sing her happy birthday, she notices the writing on the old fireplace is the same as the writings burned on the school's lawn. She gets a vision and sees Goody warning her about Crackstone's impending visit. She asks Wednesday to seek a place in the vision and tells her that as a raven psychic, she will have a solitary path, which means she will end up alone, unable to trust others. She also tells her they are running out of time. The next day, Wednesday is still not happy about her surprise birthday party and is acting cold towards things. Enid tells her the party was her idea and gives her a birthday present, along with the one her parents left. Elsewhere, Larissa visits the mayor and asks for his help tracking down the delinquents who left the burning message in her school. The mayor is happy to oblige and also tells her they are working on finding the person behind the recent attacks. He brings up the idea that it might be someone from her school, and Larissa immediately warns him to stop entertaining such ideas. Back in school, Xavier tries to find out the vision Wednesday had in the crypt. Wednesday thinks he is the monster and refuses to divulge any information to him. He tells her that when she changes her mind and needs his help, she knows where to find him. On the other hand, Bianca spots Lucas doing his community work, and he is wearing a bracelet from her mother's company. She tells him that the so-called self-help app is a fraud and tells him to delete the app. He asks her on a date later. They later meet up at the cafe, and they seemingly get along well. Later, Wednesday runs into Dr. Kinbit when she visits Eugene. He is still in a coma, and his mom's asked the doctor to check up on him when they head home for a few days. She tries to get close to Wednesday, but she is not looking for a free session, so she leaves her. As the mayor continues his investigation, he receives the death certificate of Garrett's sister who supposedly drowned while overseas. He is suspicious of her death and wants to make sure it is not related to the recent attacks. While in town, Wednesday drops in at the cafe, and Tyler invites her on a date to celebrate her birthday. She declines and says she has a tight deadline. She shows him the painting of the place that Goody asked her to find, but he doesn't know it. The sheriff comes in for his coffee, and she tells him about the writing on the Crackstone's fireplace. She visits Xavier and asks for his help finding the place in the drawing. He tells her it is the old Gates mansion, and asks why she is asking. The next morning, Wednesday visits the mansion and sees the mayor leaving the house. She and Thing get into the boot of his car after overhearing his voicemail to the sheriff. He thinks he has figured out who is behind the attacks, and asks to meet the sheriff at the cafe. He drives to the cafe, unaware that Wednesday and Thing are hiding in his boot. As he crosses the road, a blue Cadillac with no license plates hits him before driving off. Luckily, he is rushed to the hospital and might make it. Wednesday tells the sheriff that everything is linked to the Gates family, but he doesn't believe her as he knows they are all dead. The principal is also not happy to hear that Wednesday has been caught up with a new situation, and decides to put the school on a full lockdown and revoke off-campus privileges until further notice. Miss Thornhill comes to Wednesday to comfort her and gives her the Frankenstein book to cheer her up. She warns her that if she continues to defy the principal, she might be expelled. The next morning, Wednesday calls Tyler and tells him that she has reconsidered his offer for a date. His dad hears the conversation and asks him to stay clear of Wednesday. She also tricks Enid to sneak out of the school and have a redo of her birthday party. They sneak out of the school and Tyler picks them up. He is disappointed as he thought they were going on a private date. Enid is disappointed as she thought they were going to have a girls' night out. She asks Tyler to take them to the Gates mansion. Meanwhile, back in school, Xavier discovers that Wednesday snuck out and asks Thing to tell him where she went. In the spooky, old mansion, the three of them investigate the house and discover Laurel Gates' room has been cleaned. It seems like someone has been living there. Before they can investigate further, Enid and Wednesday hear Tyler screaming for help, warning them about the monster. The monster chases Enid and Wednesday through the house, and they find themselves in a basement. In the basement, they find the trophies the monster took from his victims. They don't have much time, so Wednesday is forced to quickly look through before escaping. They get out of the house and circle back to find Tyler. They find him alive but a bit bruised on his shoulder. Xavier also arrives at that moment and helps them with Tyler. They take him home and his dad is livid. He is hurt. Wednesday takes him back to the house, but everything has been cleared out. There is no sign of the trophies or the monster. The sheriff thinks that she is lying, and he is angry that she endangered his son's life. He forbids her from seeing Tyler again. The principal is angry that Wednesday ignored her warnings and violated the rules. Wednesday tells her about Rowan's mother's prophecy and shows her the painting. She asks for another chance to save the school and decides to give her one last chance. She goes to her room and finds Enid packing her things, as she no longer wants to share a room with her. She is angry that Wednesday tricked her and nearly got her killed. She leaves the room and tells Wednesday to enjoy being alone. Wednesday admits that being alone in the room is not as fulfilling as she thought it would be. She sits down and looks at the old music box toy she took from Laurel's room and discovers photos taken by someone stalking her. The episode ends with someone sneaking into the mayor's hospital room and killing him, and Wednesday leaving a message to her stalker. Episode 7 of Wednesday starts with the funeral of the mayor. Wednesday spots someone watching the funeral procession from afar and chases them into the woods. The mysterious person turns out to be her uncle Fester. He is in town to lay low after a run-in with the law. Wednesday takes him to the bee house and school to weather the storm. Her uncle is willing to help her with the case and tells her the name of the monster. The monster is called a Hyde. He tells her about an old diary in the secret room of the Nightshades. The diary belonged to a man named Faulkner who traveled the world cataloging the outcast community. After the burial, Enid visits the room to pick up some things she left behind, but she is trying to check up on Wednesday. Unfortunately, they get into another argument, and she leaves angry again. Later that night, Wednesday visits the secret Nightshade's room and finds Xavier. They get into an argument as he thinks she is treating him unfairly. He tells her that her problem is that she doesn't know who her real friends are. He has always been on her side and saving her life, but she keeps treating him with suspicions. She asks him why he keeps showing up minutes after the monster attacks. She points out his drawings, yet he claims he has never seen the monster. He asks her why she thinks he has not killed her, given that she thinks he is the monster. She answers it is because he probably likes her. Xavier leaves and Uncle Fester shows her the diary. She takes the diary with her and learns that Hydes are artists by nature born of mutation. Their monster sides are mostly dormant until unleashed by a traumatic event, chemical inducement or hypnosis. Whoever unleashes the Hyde becomes its master, and she realizes she is looking for two killers, the monster and its master. The next morning, Wednesday spies on Xavier as she is convinced he is the monster. She and Fester secretly follow him and spy on him as he meets Dr. Kinbid in the woods. She thinks that Dr. Kinbid is the master and rushes to tell the principal. She is shocked to find the therapist in the principal's office, and decides not to tell her anymore. She visits the cafe and shows the diary to Tyler. His dad sees them and chooses to ignore him. He is busy trying to find Fester, who apparently was involved in a bank robbery. After the sheriff leaves, Tyler asks Wednesday on a date, and refuses to take no for an answer. He knows the school is on lockdown, so he promises to come to her, and they plan to meet at the Crackstone's crypt. She goes to the date and asks Thing to stay back and watch the diary. Tyler prepared a sweet and romantic date in the crypt, and Wednesday finds herself enjoying it. Tyler asks her to be more than friends, and she tries to talk him out of it. As they are about to have their first kiss, the police interrupt their date looking for Fester. Wednesday returns to her room and finds the diary gone and Thing stabbed. She rushes him to Fester's hiding place to be resuscitated. Thankfully, he makes it after several resuscitation attempts. Wednesday promises to take revenge on the person who hurt him. She asks Fester to leave the school premises the next day as the police are closing in. Wednesday updates Miss Thornhill and Larissa about the break-in of her room. Larissa is not pleased to hear the diary is gone. Wednesday asks her why she never told her the real name of the monster. Larissa says she has been trying to protect the school and its legacy. She asks Wednesday to tell her if she is suspecting someone. Wednesday doesn't think she can trust her, so she walks out. The next day, Bianca approaches Wednesday and tells her she has information on the person who killed the mayor. Lucas found some information his dad left on his laptop. He thinks his dad recognized Laurel and was about to out her when she killed him. Wednesday decides to visit Dr. Kinbit, who she thinks is the master of the hide, and confront her. The therapist is confused by her accusations and thinks Wednesday has finally lost it. After Wednesday leaves, Dr. Kinbit calls the principal to complain about Wednesday's behavior. She is attacked by the monster mid-conversation and is killed. Wednesday decides to end it all, so she goes to Xavier's secret art studio and confronts him. She shows him the evidence she has been collecting in his studio, and he is arrested. Xavier repeatedly tells the police that he is being framed, but no one believes him. Everyone considers the case closed. Later that night, Enid and Wednesday make peace, and she returns to their old room. They gossip about Wednesday's date with Tyler, and Enid suggests she visits him in the cafe. Tyler is working a late-night shift at the cafe. Wednesday tells Tyler that the situation with Xavier made her re-evaluate things like who she can trust. They finally kiss, and Wednesday gets a vision of Tyler being the monster and killing Dr. Kinbit. She rushes out of the cafe, paralyzed with fear, leaving Tyler confused about what went wrong. Episode 8 starts with Wednesday meeting with Tyler in the woods and confronting him about being the hide. He is quick to deny the allegations. He asks Wednesday why she would confront him alone in the woods if she really thought he was the hide. Wednesday replies that she didn't come alone, she's brought a few sirens along, and Bianca uses her powers to sedate him. They take him to Xavier's art studio and tie him down on the chair with chains. Wednesday starts interrogating him. As it turns out, Tyler's mom was a hide, and she thinks Tyler got the genes from her. Tyler pleads that being a son of an outcast doesn't necessarily make him a monster. Wednesday is not moved by his fake tears and switches it up to some light torture. The sirens didn't sign up to see someone being tortured, so they leave her on her own and report her to the principal. The principal calls the sheriff, who was listening to Dr. Kinbit's assessment of Tyler in their therapy session. Before her death, the therapist was deeply concerned about the psychological trauma his mother's death had on Tyler. After receiving the call, he rushes to rescue Tyler from the determined hands of Wednesday. The sheriff doesn't press charges, but warns Wednesday not to push the matter any further. As Wednesday is about to leave the police station, Tyler asks to speak to her privately. He confesses to the crime and mocks her for being wrong. He tells her that every time he killed, he felt thrilled by his victim's fear. He warns her that she has no idea what is coming. The principal decides enough is enough and expels Wednesday and tells her to get ready to leave the school the next afternoon. Wednesday tries to convince her to give her more time to prove that Tyler is a hide. The principal refuses and says she is disappointed in how things ended. Desperate, Wednesday visits Xavier in jail. He is not exactly enthralled to hear that while he was suffering tied up with chains in a cell, Wednesday tells him that she knows that Tyler is the hide and asks for his help. He refuses to help her and tells her the only solution is for her to leave the town. He tells her that all she has ever done is make things hard for everyone she comes across with. The next morning, Wednesday packs her stuff and gets ready to leave. She and Enid share a bittersweet goodbye. She even shares a goodbye with Bianca and the Nightshades, and warns them to be prepared for what Tyler is planning next. Miss Thornhill also gives her white olander as a parting gift and wishes her the best. Before leaving town, she visits Eugene, who is awake from his coma, and says her goodbyes. Eugene tells her about the night of his attack and says he saw the boots of the person who set the monster's lair ablaze. The boots were red, and he doesn't think Dr. Kinbit was the culprit. Wednesday realizes that the only person she has seen with red boots is Miss Thornhill. She goes back to the school and confronts her. Wednesday tells her that Tyler confessed everything to her. She brings in Principal Larissa, who has shape-shifted into Tyler. Faced with the bare facts stated by Wednesday, Miss Thornhill confesses and asks Tyler to kill Wednesday. After hearing the confession, Larissa transforms back and asks Miss Thornhill to cooperate. She reiterates by killing Principal Larissa by injecting her with nightshade poisoning and hitting Wednesday with a spade. She takes Wednesday to Crackstone's crypt and chains her. Thane rushes to Eden to get help and explains the situation to her, while Eugene listens in on the video call. worried about what is happening. In the crypt, Miss Thornbill reveals her plan to eradicate the school. She is planning to bring back Crackstone using the body parts Tyler collected from his victims. Goody didn't only kill Crackstone, she cursed his soul too. Miss Thornbill hopes to use Wednesday to unseal the blood lock on the sarcophagus that Goody locked Crackstone in. Wednesday is the key to opening it up as she is the living descendant of Goody. The ritual needs to be done on a night of a blood moon. So it is all systems go for Miss Thornbill. In the meantime, the sheriff gets a call from one of his officers, alerting him that Eugene's parents believe something wrong is happening at Nevermore. She and other officers can't get to the school in time as all their car tires have been slashed. The sheriff was on his way transporting Xavier to prison, and decides to go to the school. Miss Thornhill starts her ritual and awakens Crackstone, who promises his vengeance will be swift and true. Wednesday tries to confront him, but he stabs her, and they leave her for dead. Goody appears before her and tells her how to defeat Crackstone. She tells her to use the talisman necklace her mom gave to her. The talisman will allow Goody to pass through Wednesday and heal her, but she will never be able to see her again. Wednesday agrees and is healed by Goody. Enid mobilizes the Nightshades and the Sirens offer to use their powers to evacuate the school. As she rushes to save Wednesday, Enid starts wolfing out. After being healed, Wednesday rushes to stop Crackstone, but meets Tyler. He transforms and starts attacking her, but Enid appears in her wolf form and starts fighting the monster. On the other hand, the sheriff changes his mind and decides to track the location of Tyler. He leaves Xavier locked in his car and heads into the woods, but he is freed by Thing. He witnesses the fight between the monster and the wolf. He shoots Tyler in his monster form, and he transforms back into human form after being hurt in the fight. Meanwhile in school, Wednesday engages in a vicious fight with Crackstone. Bianca and Xavier try to help her, but Crackstone is too strong. Wednesday remembers what Goody told her about defeating Crackstone, and stabs him in the heart. He dissipates into thin air, but the fight is not over as Miss Thornhill charges in with a gun. Eugene releases his bees to attack her, and through his help, they are able to save the school. Wednesday completes her novel, and she and Enid visit the principal's office to pay their respects. They acknowledge that they will miss her, and that they respect that she died for the school. Classes for the rest of the semester are cancelled, and Enid invites Wednesday to visit her in San Francisco. Wednesday thanks Bianca for her help, and it seems like they might start getting along. Wednesday also talks with Xavier, and they patch things up. He gives her a phone and asks her to text him sometime. He asks if she will be coming back next semester, but she doesn't reply. On her way home, she receives a message on her phone from an unknown person who is stalking her. She also passes the car that is transporting Tyler, and narrates how some loose ends are still untied. The season ends with Tyler transforming into a monster while in transit.